13 Deep Lessons from the book, The Almanack of Naval Ravikant. Number 1. What's the difference between wealth and money? Money is how we transfer wealth. Money is social credits. It is the ability to have credits and debits of other people's time. If I do my job right, if I create value for society, society says, "Oh, thank you. We owe you something in the future for the work you did in the past. Here's a little IOU." Let's call that money. Wealth is the thing you want. Wealth is assets that earn while you sleep. Wealth is the factory, the robots, cranking out things. Wealth is the computer program that's running at night, serving other customers. Wealth is even money in the bank that is being reinvested into other assets and into other businesses. Even a house can be a form of wealth because you can rent it out, although that's probably a lower productivity use of land than some commercial enterprise. So, my definition of wealth is much more businesses and assets that can earn while you sleep. To get rich, you need leverage. Leverage comes in labor, comes in capital, or it can come through code or media. But most of these, like labor and capital, people have to give to you. For labor, somebody has to follow you. For capital, somebody has to give you money, assets to manage, or machines. Number 2. The most important skill for getting rich is becoming a perpetual learner. You have to know how to learn anything you want to learn. The old model of making money is going to school for 4 years, getting your degree, and working as a professional for 30 years. But things change fast now. Now you have to come up to speed on a new profession within 9 months, and it's obsolete 4 years later. But within those 3 productive years, you can get very wealthy. It's much more important today to be able to become an expert in a brand new field in 9 to 12 months than to have studied the right thing a long time ago. You really care about having studied the foundations, so you're not scared of any book. If you go to the library and there's a book you cannot understand, you have to dig down and say, "What is the foundation required for me to learn this?" Foundations are super important. Basic arithmetic and numeracy are way more important in life than doing calculus. Similarly, being able to convey yourself simply using ordinary English words is far more important than being able to write poetry, having an extensive vocabulary, or speaking 7 different foreign languages. Knowing how to be persuasive when speaking is far more important than being an expert digital marketer or click optimizer. Foundations are key. It's much better to be at 9/10 or 10 out of 10 on foundations than to try and get super deep into things. You do need to be deep in something, because otherwise you'll be a mile wide and an inch deep, and you won't get what you want out of life. You can only achieve mastery in 1 or 2 things. It's usually things you're obsessed about. Number 3. Compound interest is a very powerful concept. Compound interest applies to more than just compounding capital. Compounding capital is just the beginning. Compounding in business relationships is very important. Look at some of the top roles in society, like why someone is a CEO of a public company or managing billions of dollars. It's because people trust them. They are trusted because the relationships they've built and the work they've done has compounded. They've stuck with the business and shown themselves, in a visible and accountable way, to be high-integrity people. Compound interest also happens in your reputation. If you have a sterling reputation and you keep building it for decades upon decades, people will notice. Your reputation will literally end up being thousands or tens of thousands of times more valuable than somebody else who is very talented, but is not keeping the compound interest in reputation going. This is also true when you're working with individual people. If you've worked with somebody for 5 or 10 years and you still enjoy working with them, obviously you trust them, and the little foibles are gone. All the normal negotiations in business relationships can work very simply because you trust each other. You know it will work out. Number 4. Nothing is ever completely wasted because it's all a learning moment. You can learn from anything. But for example, when you go back to school, 99% of the term papers you did, books you read, exercises you did, things you learned, they don't really apply. You might have read geography and history you never reuse. You might have studied a language you don't speak anymore. You might have studied a branch of mathematics you completely forgot. Of course, these are learning experiences. You did learn. You learned the value of hard work. You might have learned something that went deep into your psyche and became a piece of what you're doing now. But at least when it comes to the goal-oriented life, only about 1% of the efforts you made paid off. Number 5. Why is owning equity in a business important to becoming rich? It's ownership versus wage work. If you are paid for renting out your time, even lawyers and doctors, you can make some money, but you're not going to make the money that gives you financial freedom. You're not going to have passive income where a business is earning for you while you are on vacation. This is probably one of the most important points. People seem to think you can create wealth, make money through work. It's probably not going to work. There are many reasons for that. Without ownership, your inputs are very closely tied to your outputs. In almost any salaried job, even one paying a lot per hour like a lawyer or a doctor, you're still putting in the hours and every hour you get paid. Without ownership, when you're sleeping, you're not earning. When you're retired, you're not earning. When you're on vacation, you're not earning. And you can't earn non-linearly. Number 6. What you want in life is to be in control of your time. You want to get into a leveraged job where you control your own time and you're tracked on the outputs. If you do something incredible to move the needle on the business, they have to pay you. Especially if they don't know how you did it because it's innate to your obsession or your skill or your innate abilities, they're going to have to keep paying you to do it. If you have specific knowledge, you have accountability, and you have leverage, they have to pay you what you're worth. If they pay you what you're worth, then you can get your time back. You can be hyper-efficient. You're not doing meetings for meeting's sake. You're not trying to impress other people. You're not writing things down to make it look like you did work. All you care about is the actual work itself. When you do just the actual work itself, you'll be far more productive, far more efficient. You'll work when you feel like it, when you're high energy, and you won't be trying to struggle through when you're low energy. You'll gain your time back. Number 7. Get paid for your judgment. Choosing what kinds of jobs, careers, or fields you get into and what sort of deals you're willing to take from your employer will give you much more free time. Then you don't have to worry as much about time management. I would love to be paid purely for my judgment, not for any work. I want a robot, capital, or computer to do the work, but I want to be paid for my judgment. I think every human should aspire to being knowledgeable about certain things and being paid for our unique knowledge. We have as much leverage as is possible in our business, whether it's through robots or computers or what have you. Then we can be masters of our own time because we are just being tracked on outputs and not inputs. Imagine someone comes along who demonstrably has slightly better judgment. They're right 85% of the time instead of 75%. You will pay them $50 million, $100 million, $200 million, whatever it takes, because 10% better judgment, steering a $100 billion ship, is very valuable. CEOs are highly paid because of their leverage. Small differences in judgment and capability really get amplified. Number 8. Status is a zero-sum game. It's a very old game. We've been playing it since monkey tribes. It's hierarchical. Who's number 1? Who's number 2? Who's number 3? And for number 3 to move to number 2 has to move out of that slot. So, status is a zero-sum game. Politics is an example of a status game. Even sports are an example of a status game. To be the winner, there must be a loser. I don't fundamentally love status games. They play an important role in our society so we can figure out who's in charge. But fundamentally, you play them because they're a necessary evil. The problem is, to win at a status game, you have to put somebody else down. That's why you should avoid status games in your life. They make you into an angry, combative person. You're always fighting to put other people down, to put yourself and the people you like up. Status games are always going to exist. There's no way around it, But realize most of the time, when you're trying to create wealth and you're getting attacked by someone else, they're trying to increase their own status at your expense. They're playing a different game. And it's a worse game. It's a zero-sum game instead of a positive-sum game. Number 9. Money is not the root of all evil. There's nothing evil about it. But the lust for money is bad. The lust for money is not bad in a social sense. It's not bad in the sense of, you're a bad person for lusting for money. It's bad for you. Lusting for money is bad for us because it is a bottomless pit. It will always occupy your mind. If you love money, and you make it, there's never enough. There is never enough because the desire is turned on and doesn't turn off at some number. It's a fallacy to think it turns off at some number. The punishment for the love of money is delivered at the same time as the money. As you make money, you just want even more, and you become paranoid and fearful of losing what you do have. There's no free lunch. You make money to solve your money and material problems. I think the best way to stay away from this constant love of money is to not upgrade your lifestyle as you make money. It's very easy to keep upgrading your lifestyle as you make money. But if you can hold your lifestyle fixed and hopefully make your money in giant lump sums as opposed to a trickle at a time, you won't have time to upgrade your lifestyle. You may get so far ahead, you actually become financially free. Number 10. Money buys you freedom in the material world. It's not going to make you happy. It's not going to solve your health problems. It's not going to make your family great. It's not going to make you fit. It's not going to make you calm. But it will solve a lot of external problems. It's a reasonable step to go ahead and make money. What making money will do is solve your money problems. It will remove a set of things that could get in the way of being happy, but it is not going to make you happy. I know many very wealthy people who are unhappy. Most of the time, the person you have to become to make money is a high-anxiety, high-stress, hard-working, competitive person. When you have done that for 20, 30, 40, 50 years, and you suddenly make money, you can't turn it off. You've trained yourself to be a high-anxiety person. Then you have to learn how to be happy. Let's get you rich first. I'm very practical about it because, Buddha was a prince. He started off really rich. Then he got to go off in the woods. In the old days, if you wanted to be peaceful inside, you would become a monk. You would give up everything, renounce sex, children, money, politics, science, technology, everything, and you would go out in the woods by yourself. You had to give everything up to be free inside. Today, with this wonderful invention called money, you can store it in a bank account. You work really hard, do great things for society, and society will give you money for things it wants but doesn't know how to get. You can save money, you can live a little below your means, and you can find a certain freedom. That will give you the time and the energy to pursue your own internal peace and happiness. I believe the solution to making everybody happy is to give them what they want. Number 11. Happiness is a very evolving thing, I think. Like all the great questions. When you're a little kid, you go to your mom and ask, "What happens when we die? Is there a Santa Claus? Is there a God? Should I be happy? Who should I marry?" Those kinds of things. There are no glib answers because no answers apply to everybody. These kinds of questions ultimately do have answers, but they have personal answers. The answer that works for me is going to be nonsense to you, and vice versa. Whatever happiness means to me, it means something different to you. I think it's very important to explore what these definitions are. For some people I know, it's a flow state. For some people, it's satisfaction. For some people, it's a feeling of contentment. My definition keeps evolving. The answer I would have given you a year ago will be different than what I tell you now. Today, I believe happiness is really a default state. Happiness is there when you remove the sense of something missing in your life. Happiness is a choice you make and a skill you develop. The mind is just as malleable as the body. We spend so much time and effort trying to change the external world, other people, and our own bodies, all while accepting ourselves the way we were programmed in our youths. We accept the voice in our head as the source of all truth, but all of it is malleable, and every day is new. Memory and identity are burdens from the past, preventing us from living freely in the present. Number 12. Are happiness and purpose interconnected? Happiness is such an overloaded word. I'm not even sure what it means. For me these days, happiness is more about peace than it is about joy. I don't think peace and purpose go together. If it's your internal purpose, the thing you most want to do, then sure, you'll be happy doing it. But an externally inflicted purpose, like, society wants me to do X, I am the first son of the first son of this, so I should do Y, or I have this debt or burden I took on, I don't think it will make you happy. I think a lot of us have this low-level, pervasive feeling of anxiety. If you pay attention to your mind, sometimes you're just running around doing your thing and you're not feeling great, and you notice your mind is chattering and chattering about something. Maybe you can't sit still. There's this nexting thing where you're sitting in one spot thinking about where you should be next. Number 13. Desire is a contract you make with yourself to be unhappy until you get what you want. I don't think most of us realize that's what it is. I think we go about desiring things all day long and then wonder why we're unhappy. I like to stay aware of it because then I can choose my desires very carefully. I try not to have more than one big desire in my life at any given time, and I also recognize it as the axis of my suffering. I realize the area where I've chosen to be unhappy.